You are listening to the Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
You know, I was staring at my toaster this morning, just waiting for the bread to pop, and I had this completely random, slightly unhinged thought.
Okay.
I was wondering, does my toaster need a bank account?
Look, I feel like I should say no, straight up.
Right.
But knowing what we are about to unpack,
Uh-huh.
I have a feeling the answer is uncomfortably complicated.
It sounds absurd, yeah. But looking at the research we have got, are we actually approaching a point where, my household appliances, or at least the software running them, might start trading stocks on the side just to pay for their own electricity bill?
It is wild to think about.
Because if my toaster can hustle better than I can, I feel like I really need to step up my game.
It sounds like science fiction,
Hmm.
but we are genuinely getting close to that reality. It is what some developers are actually starting to call Web 4.0.
Web 4.0, right.
And it goes way beyond just smart devices. We are talking about the automaton.
The automaton.
Exactly. This is autonomous software that does not just execute commands, but it actually owns assets.
And that right there is the hook for you listening. There is a developer report we are looking at claiming they have built an AI system that is fully self-improving, earns money on chain, and actually pays for its own hosting and domain name.
With zero humans involved.
None at all.
Zero human intervention. It is a completely closed economic loop.
Well, you are tuned into the Vocal Technologist, and we are looking at Web3 Wednesdays. We are going to get right into the absolute collision of AI agents and crypto rails.
We have heaps to cover.
We really do. We have got robots paying bills. We have got Harvard making some very interesting strategic shifts with their endowment. And of course, because it would not be crypto without a little disaster, we have to talk about Peter Thiel and a stock that collapsed 99%.
It is basically a perfect cross-section of the industry right now. You have the highly futuristic stuff, the big institutional moves, and then just the absolute chaos of the penny stocks.
Spot on. Let us start with the futuristic stuff first. We have this roadmap titled 5 Steps to Make Ethereum LLM Driven. Now, usually when people talk about AI and crypto together, it is just buzzwords thrown in a blender to get funding.
100%.
But this seems really specific. What is the actual plan here?
Look, it is specific, and it is very technical. The roadmap is designed to fundamentally integrate large language models into the actual Ethereum workflow.
Okay.
It starts with something relatively mild, which is validators delegating their decision-making to AI agents.
So instead of a human or a static script deciding which blocks to verify or how to vote on a network upgrade, an AI actually makes the call.
Exactly. But that is just step one.
Yeah.
The end game described in this roadmap is where it gets really wild. They want AI agents to generate client code bases that are formally verified.
Hold on. Let us pause on formally verified. For the non-coders listening, what does that actually mean in plain English?
Think of it like a mathematical proof for software.
Right.
Instead of just writing code and testing it to see if it crashes, formal verification uses math to prove that the code cannot deviate from its specification.
So it is mathematically guaranteed to work.
It is bug-free by definition. The proposal is that the AI writes the core software that runs the blockchain and then checks its own work mathematically.
That sounds incredibly risky, mate. Letting an AI write the code for a network worth hundreds of billions of dollars, if the AI hallucinates, the whole network bricks.
That is the big fear. But the counter-argument, and this is the fascinating part, is that Ethereum has a massive structural advantage.
So,
Think about all core devs called transcripts, the Ethereum improvement proposals, the years and years of governance discussions.
oh, right. It is a massive archive of text.
It is a massive, high-quality, highly specialized data set. The argument is that Ethereum basically has the perfect training data to teach a model exactly how the network is supposed to function.
It is not just scraping Reddit for opinions.
No, it is learning from the actual architects of the system.
So Ethereum feeds its own history into the machine to build its future. That is actually brilliant. But let us bring this back to the automaton. For these agents to actually do anything, like my toaster paying its bills, they need to transact.
They do.
And apparently giving a robot a credit card is not exactly the solution.
No. Try explaining to a bank compliance department that your new customer is a Python script running on an AWS server. It just does not work.
They would laugh you out of the room. So how do they actually pay for things?
This is where a new protocol called Private X402 comes in. It is designed specifically for privacy-preserving payments for AI systems.
Hang on, though. Why does an AI even need privacy? If a bot buys a domain name or pays for API access, who really cares if it's public? It is not like the robot has embarrassing purchases to hide.
It is purely about strategy.
Strategy.
Yeah, if you are running a fleet of trading bots or you have agents negotiating sensitive data deals, you do not want your competitors seeing every single micropayment.
Ah, because they could track what you were doing.
Exactly. If I can see your bot paying for specific data sets on-chain, I can front-run your entire strategy. Private X402 hides those payment details from anyone observing the public ledger.
But privacy usually comes with a massive cost in crypto. Usually high gas fees because of all the complex cryptography involved. If these are just micropayments, won't the transaction fees eat up all the profit?
That is the real innovation here. Private X402 is designed for pure efficiency. It requires only 2 on-chain transactions to handle an unlimited number of payments between 2 parties.
Only 2.
Yeah, you have the setup and the settlement.
Walk me through that. How does it actually work?
Think of it like opening a bar tab.
Okay, I can relate to that.
You swipe your card once when you walk in. That is the setup transaction on-chain. Then you order 50 drinks throughout the night.
A heavy night.
A very heavy night. Those drinks are the micropayments.
Yeah.
But the bartender just adds them to the list locally on their system. You do not swipe your card 50 separate times.
Right.
Then, when you finally leave, you settle the tab with one final transaction.
So the AI agent can make thousands of tiny payments to other agents or cloud services, but they only pay the Ethereum gas fee twice.
Spot on. It makes high-frequency micropayments actually viable. But even if you have those payment rails sorted out, you still run into what they're calling the wallet problem.
I feel like we all have a wallet problem in crypto, usually involving forgetting where we wrote down our seed phrases.
True, but this is the Buy 402 wallet problem. Right now, the existing wallets are completely broken for autonomous agents. You generally only have 2 really bad options. Option 1, you leave plain text, private keys sitting on a server.
Which is an absolute security nightmare. One hack and all the funds are drained instantly.
Correct. Or option 2, you use embedded wallets that lock the funds into one specific application.
Meaning what, exactly?
So if I have an agent that needs to book a flight and then immediately pay for a hotel, it might have its money stuck in the flight booking app wallet, and it physically cannot spend it anywhere else. The funds are totally fragmented.
It is like having 20 different gift cards with $5 on each of them, but you cannot combine them to buy a $100 item.
Precisely. The proposed fix for this is a completely portable wallet architecture. The agent actually owns the keys, and it is fully decoupled from the app layer.
So one identity.
One identity, one key set, universally accessible across any service it needs to use.
That sounds like what we have wanted for human users for a long time, honestly. Now, I want to see this in action. The research mentioned a concrete example of this automaton concept with something called OpenClaw and Banker.
Yes, this is where it gets really tangible. OpenClaw is the execution layer, effectively the brain of the operation, and Banker provides all the financial rails.
Okay.
They have built an architecture where an agent runs on standard consumer hardware and nothing fancy at all, but it can actively trade on prediction markets like Polymarket.
So you have a script sitting on a laptop somewhere, betting on elections or sports and actually making money.
And then routing those trading fees straight back to its own wallet.
Yay.
It creates a complete self-funding loop. The agent earns enough to literally pay for its own computation cycles. It is economically self-sufficient.
That is basically the definition of a digital life form in a weird way. It eats data, it hunts for profit, and it sustains itself.
It really is.
But surely it gets expensive if these agents are constantly calling other agents to get things done. If every single API call is a transaction.
That is a main friction point right now. If Agent A hires Agent B, who then has to hire Agent C, those fees stack up incredibly fast. That is why there is a new proposal, ERC 80162.
What does that do?
It is a subscription layer for agents.
A subscription model. Great. So even the robots cannot escape the monthly recurring revenue trap.
It makes total sense, though. Instead of paying per request, which creates highly volatile costs for the agent, you pay once for a tiered access plan. It allows for zero marginal cost access for a set period of time.
It is actually quite funny to me that the robots are figuring out sustainable subscription models for media and data before some of the major newspapers have.
Efficiency drives innovation. The market demands it, so the code writes it.
So we have got self-sufficient robots using bar tab payments. But while the bots are out there trading pennies and just trying to pay their hosting bills, the absolute titans of finance are moving billions. Let us shift gears a bit to the adults in the room.
The institutional money. This is where the scale of the conversation changes dramatically. While the robots are super interesting, the institutions are moving market cap, altering amounts of capital.
We really have to talk about Apex Group here. Now, for anyone listening who does not closely track fund administrators, Apex is not exactly a household name, but they are absolutely massive.
They oversee about $3.5 trillion in assets. That is a staggering amount of money. And the big news is that they are actively piloting the WLFI stablecoin.
WLFI, that is the World Liberty Financial Token, right? The Trump-affiliated project.
That is the one. Apex is looking to use this stablecoin for fund subscriptions and redemptions. But the detail that really caught my eye is not just the coin itself. It is where they are planning to use it.
Where is that?
They are looking to put WLFI tokenized real estate assets directly onto the London Stock Exchange Group platform.
Wait, tokenized real estate on the actual London Stock Exchange infrastructure?
Pending regulatory approval, yes. This is the exact convergence we've been waiting for over the last few years. It is not just isolated crypto exchanges anymore. It is the legacy financial plumbing, the literal pipes that run the global economy directly interacting with tokenized assets.
That is massive. It legitimizes the entire asset class in a way a random tweet never could. And speaking of massive piles of money, let's just look at Harvard, the Harvard Management Company. They have made a bit of a pivot in their portfolio recently.
A very significant one. In their recent 13F filings, they actually revealed they trimmed their Bitcoin ETF holdings by about 21%.
Okay, maybe just taking some profits. Bitcoin had a pretty good run.
Perhaps. But the real twist is what they bought with that capital. They opened a brand new position worth about $86.8 million in the BlackRock Ether ETF, the iShares Ethereum Trust.
So they basically sold digital gold to buy digital oil. Why make that switch? I always thought these big institutions loved Bitcoin purely because it is the safe store of value.
That is definitely the conventional wisdom, but an endowment like Harvard looks at things a bit differently. They play a very long-term infinite game. They might be looking closely at the yield potential.
Even though the ETFs do not technically stake the Ethereum yet?
Exactly. Even if the ETFs do not stake yet, the asset class itself generates yield through the network economy.
Or they just see the broad utility of the network.
Spot on. Bitcoin is a very shiny rock you keep in a vault. Ethereum is an entire economy you can actually participate in. Think back to Apex Group we just mentioned. They are building their infrastructure on top of smart contract networks. Harvard might be betting that the actual economic activity on the network is way more valuable long-term than just the pure scarcity of an asset.
It is a very sophisticated bet. It is basically betting on the GDP of the internet rather than just hoarding gold reserves. And just to wrap up the institutional side, we saw something big involving Bridge and the OCC.
Right, the Office of the Controller of the Currency. This is the top banking regulator in the U.S. Bridge actually received conditional approval from them to organize a federally chartered national trust bank.
A federally chartered national trust bank. That sounds incredibly dry, but I assume the real-world implications are huge.
It is basically the holy grail of compliance in this industry. It allows them to offer qualified custody and issue stablecoins under direct U.S. federal oversight.
So no more hiding in offshore jurisdictions.
Exactly. No more relying on a really messy patchwork of individual state money transmitter licenses. This is the U.S. government effectively saying, if you follow our strict rules, you can be a real bank for crypto.
It feels like the base layer infrastructure is finally hardening. You have got the big banks, the university endowments, the federal regulators all finally lining up.
Which is honestly a relief, because the other side of the market, the sort of DeGan side, is an absolute car crash right now.
Oh, it really would not be crypto without someone losing a spectacular amount of money in a very short period of time. We have to look at this Ethzilla situation.
Ethzilla. This was formerly a biotech firm.
Of course it was a biotech firm.
They pivoted completely from biotech to becoming a dedicated Ethereum treasury company. It is the classic, we have some cash, let us buy crypto and change our stock ticker play.
But the real news here is about who actually left the building.
Peter Thiel and Founders Fund. They exited their entire 7.5% stake in the company. They got out completely.
And I am guessing the market did not take that well.
To put it mildly, the stock is currently trading 97% below its record high. It has just been absolutely decimated.
So what do you do when your grand treasury strategy fails? Your stock is down 97% and your star billionaire investor completely bails on you.
Well, apparently you start tokenizing jet engines.
I am sorry, what?
You heard me correctly. They are now pivoting again. They are tokenizing 2 commercial jet engines for $12.2 million. They are just desperate to differentiate themselves from being seen as a failed holding company. They want to show the market they are doing something real with real-world assets.
We are not a failed bank. We are an airline parts dealer on the blockchain. That just reeks of pure desperation.
It is a classic survival tactic in this space. Just throw the latest buzzwords at the wall and pray something sticks. But honestly, as weird as that is, it entirely pales in comparison to what happened with Kindly MD and the whole Nakamoto heist.
This story is unbelievable. We really need to walk through this slowly because the math here is a masterclass in dodgy financial engineering. So David Bailey, the guy behind Bitcoin Magazine, merges his holdings into a public shell company called Kindly MD.
Right. This is a standard SPAC-style merger. And initially, it goes really great for them. The stock pumps hard. It actually hits 23 times its net asset value.
Which means the stock price was completely untethered from reality. It was a massive bubble.
And then, as it always does, it inevitably pops. It collapses 99%. Retail investors are just decimated. But here's the actual heist part. Amidst this entire collapse, Bailey exercises a call option that was conveniently embedded in the original merger documents.
Now, a call option usually lets you buy stock at a specific predetermined price. What did this specific one do?
It allowed him to buy back his original assets, mainly Bitcoin Magazine and the Bitcoin Conference. But the massive twist is the currency he was allowed to use. The contract explicitly allowed him to pay using the Kindly MD shares he already held.
Okay, so he is using his own shares to buy back the company.
Yes, but the contract locked in the value of those shares at $1.12 per share.
Wait, what was the actual market price of those shares when he executed this?
Around 29 cents.
Hang on. So he is paying for these assets with shares that the contract says are worth over $1, but the open market says are only worth 29 cents. He is getting a massive discount.
It is nearly a 4 times leverage on his own depreciating currency. He effectively consolidated his entire media empire back under his own direct control, completely stripping the valuable assets out of the public company.
While the retail investors were left holding the bag.
Exactly. They're holding stock in a company that is now functionally empty and actively facing NASDAQ delisting.
That is brutal. And it is entirely legal, presumably, because it was all written into the contract.
It certainly appears to be legal.
But it feels incredibly dodgy. He sold the company to the public, let the retail market pump it to the moon, watched it crash back to earth, and then bought the furniture back for pennies on the dollar using a currency he artificially overvalued.
It is a very stark reminder for anyone listening. In these small-cap crypto equities, the insiders are playing a completely different game than the retail traders. You are not really trading against other investors. You are trading against the guys who wrote the legal contracts.
I feel like we need to cleanse our palates after that one. That is some very dark financial wizardry. Let us move on to something a bit more philosophical to close us out today.
Let us look at the much bigger picture.
Vitalik Buterin, the co-founder of Ethereum, has been openly critiquing prediction markets lately. Now, we just talked about bots trading on Polymarket earlier, but Vitalik thinks the current state of it is, what was the exact word he used? Corpo-slop?
Corco-slop. It's a fantastic word.
It really is.
He is arguing that right now, prediction markets are mostly just short-term gambling. Who wins the football game? Will the price of Bitcoin go up in the next hour? It provides a quick hit of dopamine, but not much actual societal value.
It is just betting. It is basically decentralized sports betting.
Exactly. Vitalik's broader vision is that these markets should actually be about hedging risk. He describes a future where local LLMs, tying right back to our AI theme, generate personalized baskets of goods just for you.
Give me an example of that.
Say it tracks your specific cost of living, your monthly rent, your specific brand of coffee beans, your exact electricity bill.
So I essentially have a custom index for my own life.
You do, and you use prediction markets to actively hedge against the cost of your specific life going up. If inflation is going to hit your personal basket, say rent in your specific suburb spikes, you place a bet on chain that rent will go up.
So if my landlord raises the rent, I win the prediction bet, and the payout from that bet covers the actual rent increase.
Precisely. It turns speculative gambling into highly functional insurance. It aligns all the market incentives towards personal stability rather than just wild speculation. And this ties perfectly into a broader concept that came up in the reading, the idea that crypto can kill internet gods.
That sounds incredibly dramatic. Who exactly are the gods in this scenario?
The big tech platforms, Google, Meta, the usual suspects. The argument is that these massive platforms are essentially psychological extraction machines. They aggressively monetize our daily behavior, harvest all our personal data, and honestly give us very little of value back. We are the natural resource being constantly mined.
We are the product. We all know this by now.
Right. But the counter-argument presented is that crypto offers something called Dharma through code.
Dharma through code. Okay, unpack that for me.
It basically means building parallel societal infrastructure that is governed strictly by verifiable math, not by some opaque corporate algorithm sitting in a server farm in Silicon Valley. If you truly own your private keys, if you own your personal data, if your AI agent pays its own server bills using a private protocol like Private X402, you are finally operating completely outside of that extraction machine.
It is not just about getting rich quick on a token. It is about true autonomy. It is about not being a digital serf living on Google's land.
Precisely. It is about building a new system where the rules are entirely transparent and immutable, rather than being constantly subject to the changing whims of a tech CEO or an advertising revenue model.
So we have really gone from a toaster that trades stocks to the messy reality of guys like Peter Thiel and David Bailey gaming the system, all the way to a deep philosophy of personal freedom through applied math.
It really highlights the pure duality of this space. You have the absolute worst grifters and the most brilliant visionaries operating on the exact same infrastructure at the exact same time. The underlying rails simply do not care who uses them.
And sometimes it is genuinely hard to tell which is which until the stock drops 99% overnight.
Too true.
Well, we have explored a lot. The 5 steps for Ethereum AI, the massive institutional shift with Apex and Harvard, the absolute chaos of Ethzilla, and Vitalik's big push for hedging over gambling.
It is a massive amount to digest.
I really want to leave you listening with one final thought, though, going all the way back to that automaton concept. If an AI can definitively own a wallet, trade on Polymarket, earn a real profit, and independently pay for its own server space, at what exact point does it become a recognized economic actor?
That is the big question we are heading towards. If it actively pays taxes or network transaction fees, does it eventually deserve some form of representation? Or at the very least, does it deserve basic property rights?
If my toaster pays for its own electricity, does it legally own the bread?
I think you had better start asking the toaster nicely next time you want breakfast.
I certainly will. Thanks for helping us explore all of this.
Always a pleasure.
And to you listening, keep your private keys safe and maybe keep a very close eye on your smart fridge. It might be quietly shorting the market while you sleep. Catch you next time.
Spoken Tech for your ears.